What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. The day is the day before Mother's Day, May 7th. I'm going to do a really quick video on how I make carnitas. It's not really hard to do. It does take a while, depending on how much the pork is costing. It could be kind of expensive, but usually for like birthdays or big celebrations, that's something that you'll always do, or you try to do. Today, Canelos fighting, so whoop whoop. Hopefully he freaking wins, but I think he has a good chance. So anyway, family's coming over. We're having about 18 people coming over total, so I'm kind of rounding it up to 20 and then basing my ingredients off of that. So let's run over to the table and I'll show you what we're dealing with today. Okay, so like I said, since we have roughly 20 people coming over today, what you'll want to do is I usually allocate half a pound of meat per person. So 20 people divided by 2 is going to be 10. So we're doing 10 pounds of pork shoulder or pork butt. And then what I've been seeing too, like in my last one that I did 6 pounds of meat and then I did 3 pounds of lard. But you kind of want to go more towards a 1-to-1 ratio, and I'll explain to you why when we start making it. So we have right here, I have 8 pounds of lard, and this is the pork lard. This isn't the armor, which I'll show you in just a second. This is the pork lard. This gives you better flavor for your carnitas, so if you can get a hold of this, that would be better. You may have to go to a Mexican grocery store. I don't think they're going to carry this in Albertsons or Kroger. This is Armor. This is the other brand of lard that you can use. They have these in every single grocery store that I've been to. It's also going to be good, but it's not going to be as tasty. That pork lard, for some reason, adds a lot of flavor to it. So we have 8 plus 2. I don't think I'll need this, but we'll kind of wing it and see what happens. And then on top of that, we have half an orange. We have 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. We have 4 tablespoons of salt, and then we have 6 ounces of Coke. And then I'll post, if I didn't already say, I'll post the recipes down below, maybe up in one of these corners as well, so you can kind of see what we're going to be using today. And when I figure how many people I'm serving for, I count all the adults, and for the kids, each kid counts as half. So if I have 4 kids, I count them as 2 adults. So let's say I have 8 adults and 4 kids. That's going to be 10 people that I'm going to count total. So then let's say if I was cooking for 40 people, divided by 2 is 20. I need 20 pounds of meat. That's a pretty safe figure to go by. Like I said, depending on how much carnita you put in your tacos, you're not going to fill them up to the brim, right? Usually it's just like boom, 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 just a little bit, right? And then you just get a whole crap load of tacos or something. And no, that's it. So let's go ahead and fire up the disco. I forgot I was going to say caso. So the caso is what they usually use. I'll put a picture of it in one of these corners over here, that they used to make carnitas. And I don't have one. I only have my disc. I can buy a caso. They're really expensive. The copper ones are supposed to be the best ones you can get. But from what I've been doing, usually with the more shallower pan, and like I said, you compare this disc to a caso, the caso has more of a flat bottom. So you're using a lot more lard, even for just a little bit of meat. So if you only have this much meat covering the bottom for that caso, you have to get enough to cover that whole bottom of that caso by this much. Whereas with the disc, since it's dome shaped, the amount of area at the bottom is going to be a lot less than oh my god, I just drew a blank. I just said it too. What did I just say? Let's rewind it. The caso. There we go. It came out. So in my opinion, this is better for like smaller groups. If you're doing like a big party in a big group, you need a caso. You need a big caso you could fit 20, 30, 40 pounds of meat in. For what we do here, like I said, this is for 20 people. It's going to be fine. So let's get it fired up and we'll go and get started. So I apologize. The audio from yesterday came out really bad. You could hardly hear what I was saying, so I'm doing a voice over today. So what we're going to do is bring it to a high heat. And then if you look at that very middle of the disco, once I add this lard in here, it's going to fill up pretty quick. And that's because, like I said, the shape of the disco is such that there's less area at the bottom, so it takes less lard to fill it up. Now, as you go up, of course, you're going to need more lard because it's wider. And that's all going to depend on how much meat you're adding. You want your meat to be below the surface of the oil once it's cooking. Once you add in more meat, then, of course, the level of the oil is going to rise with it. Here we're adding in the second container, so this is 4 total pounds of the pork lard. You're gonna see that there's like, it's like section, like the top section looks like a Coca-Cola colored, and then the bottom part is like that milky chocolate milk colored stuff, that's just a solidified lard. That's not a problem. Here we are adding in the third container, which is going to take us to 6 pounds of lard. As it heats up, it's of course going to start becoming the same color. That's how you can kind of gauge whether or not it's coming up the temp. One thing you can do when you get to that point is you can either listen, you can check it with a thermometer, look for smoke, or put a piece of meat in. And I'll kind of show you how to do that here in a second. Another thing is whenever the meat is added, you want that meat to actually come to a very quick boil, not to where it's just barely even bubbling. So I'll show you that here in a second. So here we are adding in the fourth one, which is going to take us to 8 pounds of total lard. It doesn't look like a lot, but 8 pounds of lard is quite a bit. I ended up actually adding in that 2 pounds of the armor lard just because I wanted to make sure everything was covered. You want everything covered so that it cooks the same at the same amount or same speed. Now what I'm doing is I'm touching the pork just to see whether or not it starts bubbling. You can see kind of the smoke in the back. So once your oil starts smoking, it's telling you it's hot. You're good to go. You don't want it to smoke like that too much or your oil will taste burnt. So once you throw it in, once it starts bubbling like this, then you're good to go. Now what we're doing here is we're trying to crisp up that outside of the pork, kind of like when you sear a steak, where you're searing the outside, you're making it crust over so that it keeps that moisture on the inside. That's what we're doing with the pork. We want really high heat right here to where we crisp up the outside, keep all those all that juicy goodness inside of the pork so that it doesn't dry out. And then what I'm doing with the castle is I'm just dropping them in slowly at first until there's some in there. Then you can kind of just chunk them in there. Or with the disco, like I said, you can just put them on the side and then just kind of let them slide down. So this is the first 5 pounds that we're adding to the disco. When you add that pork, since the pork is room temperature, it's not cold, but it's not hot, right? So it's going to bring down the temperature of your oil a little bit. So you may see that bubbling is going to kind of subside just a little bit until it comes up to temperature, and then it'll start bubbling some more like you saw it before. So that's the first 5 pounds. You want to just kind of push everything down, get everything situated, get it pushed towards the bottom. Like I said, you don't want any meat sticking out of the top, right? You want everything under so it cooks the same. Anything that's going to be sticking up above it is not going to be cooking at the same rate of the stuff that's below. So if you do have small pieces, the only thing is you're going to have to stir quite a bit. And then with the smaller pieces, they're going to cook faster, but you're going to have more surface area, so you're going to have more crispy bits. Depending on what you like. My daughter likes the crispy stuff. I like the more tender stuff. So these are 2.5 to 3 inch chunks. I would rather go towards more of like a 3 to 4 inch when I do this next time. I just like it that way. The bigger they are, the longer they're going to take to cook, but the more juicy they're going to be on the inside. And like I said, it's just preference. Whatever you think, whatever you like, you could do half and half. And as the little ones are done, you just move them over to the side. So this is going to be the total 10 pounds of pork shoulder. I'm going to start pushing them towards the bottom. Like I said, just get everything situated. As you push them, that oil level is going to kind of rise up just a little bit. You want to make sure everything is under. Like I said, if it's not under, then you're going to spend a lot of time sitting there babysitting it, you know, stirring it up, switching them over, moving them around just to make sure everything's getting a little bit of attention, right? You want it to cook evenly. You don't want a whole bunch of pieces done before the other ones are. And like I said here, I did use the 8 pounds. Plus, I ended up using the 2 pounds of that armor lard afterwards. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of expensive, but, you know, you're doing it for a good cause. You're cooking out for your family. It shouldn't be that big of a problem. So what we're looking at it. We're going to start stirring them around. Like I said, constantly move them, but don't move them so much that they start shredding, like in a little bit like shredded pork. You don't want that. If you do that, then either you cut the pieces too small or you're moving them way too much. So this golden brown right here is what you want. The entire outside's not going to be that color just because the fat isn't going to turn that color. I don't know why, science, magic, I have no idea. But the fat's not going to turn that caramelized color like the rest of it until you add the stuff that we're going to add in a little bit. But what you want to do here is just verify that the meat that you do see is turning that little golden brown to where you know that you're seared as much as you can on the outside without overcooking it. You don't want to cook it to where it's the final color that you're desiring. You don't want that because it's going to continue to cook a little bit longer. So once you get to the point to where Everything is like the same color. Like right here, I got the basket out just so you can kind of see how they're pretty uniform. I mean, some of them aren't as dark as the others, but overall, they're pretty much the same color. And that's what you want. That outside is seared up. It's nice and crispy. Now you can move on to the second part, and that's where we're going to lower the temperature of the oil. So it's not like a fast rolling boil. It's going to be slow cooking the inside. So right here we have our 1 cup of hot water and then the 4 tablespoons of salt. You need to use hot water because you want that salt to dissolve in the water, and then that's what you'll add to the grease. I know it sounds weird adding water to grease, and it might take you back to your childhood when you're sitting there making bacon and it's popping all over you and getting you in the face. But for some reason, when you do that here, it doesn't splatter like you think it would. Like when I first saw videos, I'm like, man, I'm not gonna throw this water in that hot grease. I'm gonna freaking sit there and burn myself. It doesn't do that, I promise you. So once you have it dissolved, it doesn't matter if you pour it along the outside, towards the middle, doesn't matter. I mean, if you're scared about it splashing, then yeah, go ahead and just pour it towards the outside, cross your fingers and step back. It's not gonna do that. I promise you. I've done this a few times. You'll pour it in there. Once you stir it, the only thing you're gonna get is just like almost like a rolling boil, and you'll see it here, but it's in no way, shape, or form violent. It's not gonna sit there and pop, splatter, explode. It's not gonna do any of that, I promise you. I still get scared just because, like I said, when I was a kid, I mean, even now, when I'm making bacon, I'm like, I take steps back because I just don't trust it. For some reason, bacon doesn't like me. My dad always used to tell me, if you're scared of it, it's going to pop on you. So here I am adding it to it. There's nothing yet. And then once I stir it, it kind of rolls like a little rolling boil. You see what that is? It's not violent. There's nothing splattering up. It's not going to get you. So I don't know what the science is behind it, but it's not going to do it for whatever reason. So I just added the 6 ounces of Coke right there. That Coke is going to give it a beautiful color here in a second. The sweetened condensed milk, this is going to be the full can, is also going to add, it's going to help it to caramelize the outside of the meat. And you want that outside to be uniform across all pieces, just because it looks a lot nicer, it's more presentable. It may add a little bit of sweetness, not too much. So what I did for this one, I actually cut down on the Coke. I added a full can the first time, I added a half a can this time. I added a half a can of condensed, or I'm sorry, a full can of condensed milk. I did it again, full can here. But then for the orange, instead of adding a whole orange, I only added half an orange. Now the orange, you're not gonna taste it. It's not gonna taste like, if you're eating orange chicken or something and you're like, yeah, it's got some tanginess to it. No, the orange is gonna kind of, I guess, combat the saltiness of the pork. It kind of just settles it down. You're not gonna taste it. You can always, like I said, some people don't put anything in there. They just do the pork, they do salt and then water, and then they're done. But it's totally up to you. You can do it, you cannot do it. I think the next time I may do it without adding all the other stuff, just to see what it comes out like. So here I added the 2 bay leaves. I've done 2, 3, 4. I don't really care for bay leaves myself, so for this I just added 2. You can add more if you like bay leaves. Me myself, not so much. Like I said, some people put all kinds of crazy stuff in their carnitas. Some people don't put anything at all. So it's kind of, like I said, your personal preference. This is what I've done. So now I'm checking it with the meat thermometer just to make sure the inside is cooked. If you don't have a meat thermometer, just take the biggest piece you have and then cut it in half. If it's pink in the inside, it's not ready. If it's white on the inside, then you're good to go. I don't like doing it because I don't like cutting pieces up like that, because if it's not to temp, then you're just cutting a bunch of pieces in half, and then they get smaller, and then, like I said, they'll cook faster than the rest. For some reason, my meat thermometer is acting kind of dumb right there. I had to tap it because it was getting stuck on the face. So anyway, so now we're, like I said, at that lower temperature. We're just cooking that inside. If you brown the outside and then you sit there and then just take it out because it looks beautiful, the inside is still raw. That second part of the cook, which is this part where it's like a lower heat, that's what's cooking the inside. So I'm looking at them here. They look like they're pretty much done. They're pretty uniform in color. I don't see any differences with them. Even the fat, the part of the fat that was showing like white before, that's nice and golden brown. I mean, I think it's done. You're gonna have you see these little bits and pieces on the bottom. That's just little bits and pieces that falls off. You don't need to concern yourself with that. It's not a big deal. So it looks like it's done. Let's go ahead and take it out. So here I have just an aluminum tray with a bunch of paper towels at the bottom. That's going to basically absorb all the grease. You don't want your carnitas just swimming in grease. That's going to be gross. So go ahead and take them out. At this point, I think I turned off the heat. You don't need the heat anymore, so turn it off. It's going to stay boiling like this for a while just because, yeah, I think I'm reaching down right there. So you can turn your heat off. It's going to continue to boil. Like when I took all these carnitas out, the orange peel that I left in there kept cooking. So there's going to be a lot of heat. These discos, they're so heavy with metal that they're going to retain their heat quite a bit. And then too, like I said, the oil itself is going to keep some heat in it too. So even these carnitas, once you take them out, they're going to continue to cook just a little bit, the same way a steak does when you take it off the grill. So you'll just pull them to the side, let them sit there and just hang out until you're ready to cut them. I like, whenever I'm making food, whether it's a discada or if it's something like this, I always like cutting it and eating it as soon as I'm done cooking. I don't like for it to sit there and hang out. If you do need to cover it, you can cover it with aluminum foil. Now, there's two ways you could do it. You could cover it completely with aluminum foil and then seal it up, but then the steam that's coming out of these carnitas are going to kind of soften the outside crust of your carnitas. If you don't like doing that, if you like it kind of crusty or crispy, then go ahead and cover it with foil, but leave it cracked a little bit so that the steam can escape. If you're going to be doing a whole bunch, like a bunch of batches, or doing it, you know, early in the day for later on, you can get an ice chest or a cooler, put it in foil like this, and then just put some towels above and below it, and it'll keep for hours. You don't have to worry about it getting cold. I've done briskets like this to where you throw them in the cooler, and they'll stay hot 5, 6, 7 hours. You don't need to do anything to them. So like I said, it just depends. Me, like I said, I just like eating it as soon as it comes off. I just cut it up, throw in tortillas, and then you're good to go. So we're good here. It looks really good. I'm just checking to make sure there's no more carnitas floating around in the bottom. I'm not seeing anything. I'm going to probably just leave the orange peels in there for now, clean them up later on. So what we'll do is real quick, I'm going to go ahead and move this stuff to the side and give you a nice little 360 shot so you can kind of see where we ended up with these beautiful carnitas. So here we are, 360, just walking around it. So this, like I said, 10 pounds of meat was enough for 20 people. We had actually 18 people. We had like 1.5 pounds left over, which is enough for like 2 or 3 people to take, you know, bowls of carnita home. So I promise you, it doesn't look like a lot, but this was plenty for what we had. You can always add more meat if you wanted to, or if you're not real big meat eaters, you could do less. But for 20 people, 10 pounds of pork shoulder was perfect. All right, so we're done. Never done this sitting down, but I can't stand up because I won't be in the frame. So I was contemplating on whether or not I should do like a picture-in-picture so you guys can see me and see the food. So I didn't, because right now I felt, you know, maybe the food's more important. If for some reason you would rather me do the picture-in-pictures like I did in that worm video, leave me a comment, let me know. That way I could set it up to where you can see me and then the close-in shot of the food. Some people are like, dude, I want to see your face. Whatever, that's fine too. All right, so let's go ahead and start chopping up some of these carnitas. We're gonna take a couple pieces. Like I said, these tacos don't use a whole bunch of meat. So these 2 pieces that you're seeing right here probably be enough for 3, 4, 5 tacos, depending on how big your tortillas are and how big of portions you want. So you can do it 2 ways. You could just straight up just chop it up like this. And then another way to do it is just kind of like mash it down. And if it's cooked really good, it'll just kind of just spread out and shred on its own. And then you just do like a final chop on it. Some of the pieces, they're going to have this fat that you're seeing here towards the right side. If your kids don't like that, you can just push it off to the side. Like I said, my dad always said that, oh, the fat adds flavor. For steaks, it does. For pork, I can't do that. I can't sit there and be like, oh, let me eat all this fat. It's delicious. So you'll take however many tortillas you want, 2, 3, 4, load them up with your carnita. I don't get real fancy on my tacos when I'm doing them usually. Honestly, I just put like what you see here, which is your carnita and sour cream. I know people are gonna be like, dude, you're not a real Mexican. You don't put sour cream on carnitas. But it's whatever you want. If you like peanut butter and jelly on your carnitas, god dang it, put it on there and enjoy it. As long as it's what you want and you enjoy it that way, you put whatever you want on there. It's no big deal. People are gonna judge you, but who cares? It's your stomach. So so for mine I also put some lime, just a squirt across all of them. I don't do too much. I didn't used to put lime on them. Then I got married, and I'm like, oh, I saw my wife, how she dressed hers, and I'm like, God dang, that looks good. But I just cannot, for the life of me, do the whole cilantro and cebolla. Now cilantro, I heard, it's funny, I heard that some people, to them cilantro tastes hideous, and then my wife loves it. She'll eat it like salad, but for me, when I eat cilantro, ugh, it's gross. So I don't put cilantro on my tacos. My son does, my wife does, me and my daughter don't. And then of course the cebollas, if you like onions. Again, I do not. You can make fun of me if you want to. I don't do it, but I'm dressing it here because I'm showing you how most people do it. They'll put lime, they'll put cilantro, and they'll put onions. And that's basically it. That's how you serve them up. Some people put cabbage, so it's really whatever you want to put. Hey everybody, so that's gonna do it for today, which was yesterday when I initially cooked the, what was it, carnitas that I did. Oh my god, it made me so mad when I started listening to the audio and I noticed that it wasn't there. It was really bad. It was really weak. Today is actually Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. My wife back here, my daughter Bianca, Kathy's at home, and my mother, of course. Until I see you guys next time, take care, thank you, and God bless.